Welcome to the Awakened Goddess Show, your source for inspiration, wisdom, and personal discovery. The place to learn from a diverse mix of mentors, metaphysical experts, spiritual leaders, and best-selling authors from around the world. I'm Angela Wilkinson, intuitive coach and founder of the Awakened Goddess Academy. Join me as I explore the minds of my masterful guests while they share powerful insights and easy-to-use tools you can start using right away. Now, let's tap into the energy of the Awakened Goddess and be enlightened by today's guest. Well, welcome, Roberta, to the Awakened Goddess Show. I am so honored to have you joining me today because I have seen you many times at the Portland Body, Mind, Spirit Expo, and you always have this amazing booth that is just like incredible, where you're showing crystals, stones, and plant spirits that you've worked with. And so it's such, like I said, it's such an honor to be able to chat with you, talk with you, and help you spread your message here today. So welcome.
Oh, thanks so much. This is good.
Yeah. So you are, well, I'm really curious to hear your journey. I always like to know what was the catalyst for you, because this didn't happen.
It
It
did
didn't
not.
just start happen
No.
yesterday. This has been something that you probably were born into. This is like something that you, um, it was just part of your soul. So what was that?
Absolutely. First part that you don't recognize until you look back is it's always been there.
Hmm.
I was a sleepwalker when I was a child. And my father, I would climb trees. That was my thing, was connection with the trees.
Nice.
And so my dad built a tree house so he'd know where I was. If I got up and left in the middle of the night after we tried all the other things.
Yeah.
And I've spent all of my, I've always heard the plants. And then what happened is hitting puberty, and we're going to talk about that later on of what's coming in for that. But hitting puberty, you step into the lessons of this life, which were hard lessons, as they are for so many of us.
Right.
So it did not click in. I had been an herbalist always. The plants have always been, from the time I was, 7 and 8 years old, I was making stuff. I would gather weeds outside my treehouse. Looks pretty much like this cabin, only tinier, because I had jars that I would fill. My father made the greatest pickles and the greatest sauerkraut, and I would take the old jars he did them in, eat them, and then gather all of the herbs out in the fields and stuff them into the jars, and they were all stacked and on shelves in my treehouse. So it's always been there.
Yeah.
But the lessons of life got in the way, and just before the harmonic conversions, everything just smacked me, absolutely. And everything started opening up in a very big degree. And it has been, I have been making medicines and having them out to the market for 45 years now. So that path has always really been there.
Right.
And it's getting stronger and stronger and stronger. What's coming in so intensely now is so big that in the last 3 months, the input that has come in is so huge of the downloads, plant worldwide, kind of all at once, that it's been, I'm afraid I can't stay, but it's easing, and wow, we're just, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's truly amazing.
Yeah, the momentum is definitely, it's like...
It's increased.
It has.
To where it's just, I like to say, going downhill on roller skates with your hair on fire. It really, it's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and what I love about you is your sheer passion and how you channel this information from the plant spirits and you share it. And when you're talking about this, whether it's the plants or the minerals, you are like so in alignment. You are so, oh my God, you're just such a pure channel of divine
And I work
information.
hard at that because this is, and I want to say this for those who don't know what plant spirit is, medicine is. Um, I'm watching it come to be known to people more now that it's out there, and I'm seeing something happen in areas that I want to put correct. It is not power over plant.
Mm-hmm.
It is service.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely service. I'm seeing people in the same line as, oh, I am a shaman,
Mm-hmm.
and not understanding what that word means,
Right.
that it means service to the community.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got to stay in line with that.
Yeah.
We just got to stay in line. Integrity is everything right now. And
Mm-hmm.
anything that you're not integrity with is going to blow you out of the water.
Right. When I think that a lot of people maybe aren't aware of the true power of the plant medicine.
It is. And as I've always done this with the wild plants of the Northwest, as I pause in this, it's because things are just kind of talking and hollering at me.
Yeah.
My teacher, Ines, from the Amazon, stepped back in very strongly yesterday, and she's speaking. That's whose voice I'm hearing right
Mm.
now, too. So they sat me in a circle, and they sang me their medicine songs. They were doing a healing for me. I've come to think after, I don't think they deliberately gave me their songs because that's they spend their whole lives gathering their power in songs
Mm-hmm.
that the plants give them, and it's a very different walk there.
Mm-hmm.
But because I am an empath beyond, of course, they all went in. So now when I do my medicines, um, I can call on my teacher Ines, and or even not call. She shows up when she wants to, and there's speaking that's been done in the last 2 days. Um, they all come. That energy of their songs moves through me like everything else does,
Mm-hmm.
and into the medicine. So what happens is that the medicine, when it's made that way, the plants, and with everything that I do, there's I don't understand it. I have no idea how it works, but I know as a result that they pass through me
Mm-hmm.
into what's being used. The persons who use them, it passes through them to their families, to every
Mm-hmm.
way. So it's a way, the plants needed a way to get out
Mm-hmm.
of the Amazon.
Yeah.
They
Mm-hmm.
were, that had been their place. That's where and the only way they'd ever been brought out before, well, that's not true that I know of. I'm sure there are lots of ways, is that the pharmaceuticals.
Mm-hmm.
And those were not really the plants
Right.
or the spirit of the plants.
Right.
So we have opened up a door to those plants into our world in all kinds of way. They now travel through all of those pathways because everything right now is moving out to every single one of us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, everything that we've thought, everything that I thought that I knew about this world is being turned upside down in a crazy manner.
Mm.
And there's a part of me that absolutely knows this, and it is the old path that we walk
Right.
of our ancestors um, that this happens with. But the person in the physical life, we're totally walking side by side in this life right now.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
The awakened and the aware, and the one who is learning the lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so every 2 to 3 years since I have gone to the Amazon, um, I thought I was done, and I was saying I think we finished there, but now I'm getting yelled at by Ness since yesterday.
Mm.
So I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, well, it seems like from an outside perspective that
Yeah,
things are shifting for you, that it's time, because you've been staying very local to the Portland area in terms of like what
yeah,
your reach has been. And it seems like you're being called to step out further and further.
in a huge way. I have spent my life in the forest. I've never driven. I have set it up, I realize, of course, as a way to keep a handle on what I feel and see
Hmm.
when I go out into the world.
Hmm.
And I had not had a way to deal with that. Nothing that I had ever done or anyone had tried to help me with, none of that really worked um, until now. Things are shifting tremendously. The only shows that I had done were Body, Mind, Spirit twice a year,
Hmm.
and then back into the forest. But the forest is stretching.
Yes.
I spent last year in for 6 weeks in Europe.
Hmm.
And I did not know what it was about when I went. I just kind of try to get every ideas out of my head and out of my way. And it ended up being following the path of the ancient trees, in particular the ancient yew trees,
Hmm.
that I am coming on. See, the minute I say I'm coming to understand, I don't understand anything.
Right.
That's not where it is. But what I'm coming to know part of the puzzle is that the tree of life was in Egypt.
Hmm.
Um, when it went down, ancient times, the wood was passed down as staves. I tell you, the more information comes in, the harder, with all of this is coming, it's harder to tap. It makes my
Hmm.
mind skip into different. Um, okay, the
Well,
medicine
because
men of the Celts,
yeah, because
you
you
know.
kind of jump between different
I
dimensions.
do.
Yeah.
Jump between different dimensions. I want to, boy, talk about that too with the trees. There's so much. But first of all, these staves were brought into Avalon, in the area of the Tor, in the area of the Chalice Well, and they were carried by the Celtic medicine men, who, why is my brain not saying the word? But all of these trees that I ended up going to and being sent to were all built on ancient, there were ancient graveyards and
Hmm.
churches that had been built upon the Celtic mounds
Hmm.
there. Um, the last tree that that I visited that is just so amazing is called the Eustragoli yew. And I know I'm not pronouncing that right because it's in Wales, and Welsh is a crazy, but
Yeah.
it's so. But it means the name of the town, which is posted right by the graveyard where the tree is called Awakening the Sleeping Giants.
Mm.
And the tree has just gotten legitimized as the oldest tree in Europe and maybe the second to third oldest tree in the world.
Mm. Incredible.
And my understanding at this point is that those staves were brought, put in the ground, they became these trees. So
Mm.
they're genetic. Okay, not only are they genetic, of course, originally right to the
Hmm.
tree of life.
Hmm.
So I started a conversation with the trees about 4 years ago now, I think it is, to where I thought it was a specific tree, and what I've come to understand is it's an overlord
Mm.
of the ancient, it was a voice that speaks for all.
Hmm.
Um, and it started talking to me about who the trees were, and that they are all one single tree. They're not birch, they're not oak, they're not yew, they are one, and that they remember this. And they kept saying to me, they call themselves root and branch. And now I'm finding that back into the history as I delve, that they have spoken to others, that this is what's going on, like the two yew trees at the Chalice Well in the early part of the 1900s was excavated there. And underneath the well, they found one of the largest, or the largest, yew stump petrified
Wow.
that has ever been seen there. And it spoke to the architect, the man who was doing this, and it started speaking as root and branch. So that is how they say. And they would say to me, root and branch remember the mother. And I didn't, I'm a little dull at that. It took me a while to get to that, to where I was finally understanding what they're saying is they remembered, every one of them, the mother, the tree of life, where they came from. And they told me that man is the same, only we've forgotten. Because the plants all remember the ancient where they came from. So do the stones. Right. Man's the only one that does not. And we are the one that carries, we're the ones that carry the voice for all of it, from what I am understanding and being told. I'm jumping with what I'm wanting to say to you, because I'm really wanting to get to this, and it has to do with what I just said, but everyone's yelling out there. So 3 years ago, I had a friend staying with me that I host when she comes to town, whose name is Sylvia, and she's an Amara, a healer of the Amara tribe, which is pre-Incan and Maya. And Nai, who's been up here messing on the table, got out at that time. She's never been outside. My cats have never been out. And I had to immediately call in all of my animal communicator friends to get her in. Because she refuses to be dictated to whatsoever. She knows more than we do. And she does. So at that time, when Sylvia had first come into the United States, this was her first trip in, and it was, I think, 5 or 6 years ago, and we were her first ones that had readings with her. I had been told that she was coming and that we needed to do that, so we were in line right there. And Mary, at that time, my partner Mary, had to make a promise to a spirit that was here on the land, and in order for him to be able to go, she had to take up the promise of walking the boundaries on this land. And Kate and Mary do. They always have. They walk. We have 40 acres up here. And they bushwhack every day. And they walk the trails every day. And they know all the trees on this land, 3,000 or 4,000 of them, which they have planted, of new trees all of this time. And I'll show you some up above that are getting huge, that are just amazing trees. But they know the trees that are here. In looking for Nai, right down there, 100 feet from the cabin, is a tree that came in that was not there before. And it's right almost on the boundary, so we know it's walked every day. We knew it was not there. A veil dropped. 7 years ago, I had been doing a ritual for the healing of the earth right outside the cabin here, and I couldn't close off the circle to the south. And it's the first time that's ever happened, and I didn't know what the heck was going on. I can't close the circle. So I said, okay, I think we've got a vortex opening. But it was not a vortex. It was a gateway. A gateway is a door, and it never closes except for its own purposes, you know? It's a dimension traveler. It's a gate into the next dimension. Some of them just are a small gateway into fairy. Some are gateways to who the heck knows. You know, we don't. But this is a gateway. And because it is a gateway, and so many people have experienced this. This is the good thing with this. These things happen to me all the time. It's my life. I don't know why, but for all of them, I am given witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not. I can say, okay, I'm not. Well, I am crazy, but that's there's always witnesses.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of witnesses.
And there's beauty in that
Oh
because
my God, yes, it's
because
shared.
it's not an experience that the spirits, the spirit world trusts you enough to allow you to bring witness
Yeah.
witnesses into that space. So that's really cool.
First of all, Mary said we're not telling anybody about this. We're until we know what's going on when she saw the tree. And the tree,
It's not just a little tree, is it?
it is not just a little tree. Thank you. I get caught up into what things are being said, so excuse me in that. It is a huge tree. It's the largest tree on our land. And in their daily walks of boundary patrol on the land, here they know, Kate and Mary know every single tree on this land. And this is right by my cabin. It is right by the boundary on this end, which they'd flagged, and it's like um, about twice as far as you and I are from where the flags are hung.
Mm.
So they
So it's not like it could just
it could just pop. We would not have noticed.
right.
This tree when it first showed up took 5 of us to get around. In a workshop I did last summer, it took 10 of us to get around at that time because we raised some huge energy. And it disappeared at the first time we had a little gathering of my friends down there. Um, one of us went up above, one of my friends went up above to get something and bring it back down. And we had disappeared while she was up there, and she couldn't find us until she just walked in trust until she bumped into the tree, and then we were there again. So there's many, many people who've experienced this. There are people I trust explicitly in the world of seeing and hearing that know that this is a gateway, that it is a dimensional traveler. There is a group of amazing people that are working with anchoring in the star grid to the sacred mountains of the world. There will be 33 that will be done.
Mm.
And the pictures that they have taken of this happening is amazing. Wherever they go, they gather the native healers of the area, of the tribes that are there,
Mm-hmm.
and they're in part of this too. And they anchor in the star grid to these sacred mountains, and then they are anchoring them into the tree here
Mm-hmm.
because that moves it in all dimensions. And how in the heck I got to be part of this? It's like I can't,
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what. But
Well, it's because you've been on this path. You've been creating these plant medicines for 45 years, you said. It's
I
like,
have, but that's something that comes through me, and then I get it out in the community, and we figure out what it's for. But this is a whole nother number. Whenever I question anything in my life now, and it has taken me these last 3 years
mm-hmm.
to come to peace with it, that when I question anything, and boy, I questioned that one, there's a tree in my yard that wasn't there. So how can I, when I slip into mind space about something,
Mm-hmm.
there's a tree in my yard. And I don't believe it would just happen here. It happened here because we're very aware of what goes on here. We know that we're gatekeepers.
Mm-hmm.
We take care of all of that and have the land gridded and protected. But it's happening other places. I know it is.
Oh, sure.
The veils are dropping here, 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 wherever there's someone to be a gatekeeper that
Mm-hmm.
can kind of funnel the energy in the right direction
Right.
for this,
Well, clearly
for the healing of the earth.
right
And it's all about the healing of the earth.
right, the message is they're trying to communicate the message, and they're looking for people that can help spread that message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So next year I've been invited to go to Mongolia,
Oh, cool.
and that the native people tribes there would put me up for this ceremony. So
Mm.
um, I'm not sure if I'm going to do it. I'm being told both things. The tree says, "You're right here. You are in Mongolia. You know, it's coming through here. Here
Mhm.
you are.
Mhm.
So you can choose to take this trip, but it's coming to you."
Mhm.
The other day, I had a group of stones and plants that started yelling, um, and said, I do work every day in bringing all of my chakras up to balance.
Mhm.
And they said they were saying, you need to bring that chakra up. And I said I already did. You know, I argue. I never not argue with them, and I don't know that that's a good thing, if a bad thing, but I do. I argue. So they said no, you've not. That chakra needs to be brought up. So I went through all of them again. They're all fine and dandy.
Mm.
So what they started talking about was the thymus
Mm.
that we never
Interesting.
deal with.
Right.
And I had heard in the early 1980s that they were doing Kirlian photography and had started seeing this chakra color that was kind of a brown come up, that they were maybe a new chakra. But it's not a new chakra, it's an old chakra. So I started looking. I went into myself and went, whoa, ick. What
Yeah.
is that?
Mm.
And ever since I did that, my throat chakra isn't, I can't bring it into the right balance. And this is what I looked at. And this was so far what's been explained. The thymus is when we are children, before we come into puberty, it is the most important gland in our body.
Mm-hmm.
The chakra
Mm-hmm.
it's called the upper heart chakra,
Right.
and it is the most important in our world because it runs our immune system. It runs how we feel about ourselves. It runs how we take in everything through our heart into our world. And that can cause great pain as a child because you lead with your heart as a
Mm-hmm.
child. And when something hits you, that's where it hits you as a child.
Mm.
So the immune system, it regulates the immune system, it regulates the whole endocrine systems when you're up until that time period, your whole lymphatic systems.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you hit puberty, clunk, it starts dying back. I believe that the thymus is what makes us age, is the death of the thymus.
Mm.
And I started digging and found some lines into some doctors who were starting to make, of course, not out of true plants or plant spirit medicine at all, but there are those of us who do.
Mm-hmm.
And they're believing that that the thymus can be treated and brought back, and that we will not age. That it is the death of that that causes all of the diseases. Because as it shuts down, our immune shuts down. We're then open to any viral anything that comes in a way that we weren't when we were younger and protected.
Mm-hmm. Well, it
So,
sounds like almost like our emotional liver.
aha,
Almost,
got it,
it's
got
like
it.
that filtering system, and
Yeah,
it's like when you clog a filter,
yep,
it's so
yep.
saturated.
So then it starts to become, um, I talk a lot. You know, that is I don't have a problem with that. Usually the throat chakra is the biggest thing roaring. Um, but I've got the edges of some understanding, and I don't know where this is going to go. I'm very interested to see the rest of this year into the fall where it's going to go. But what I am getting is um, tree of light.
Hmm.
Tree of light.
Uh-huh.
We're doing tree of life and
Yep.
tree of light
Yeah.
because this upper heart chakra, um, when it's brought back up, is going to bring in our languages.
Hmm. Like the light languages, you mean?
Yes, and our ancient languages,
Yeah.
because I'm the hits of things that I'm getting, and it hasn't lined up. We're getting ready to line up to a big energy load to our ancient ancestors that are coming in from the Lemurian
Mm.
race,
Mm-hmm.
who were androgynous. And it's
Right.
interesting that this year, all of the stones, not all of them, but the bulk, there's a lot of stones that all came to me in Tucson this year from the miners. And they were ones that were normally masculine and
Mm-hmm.
have now flipped to feminine.
Mm.
And the ones who were feminine have now flipped to masculine.
Interesting.
And I don't know where we're going with that, except that we're headed towards an androgyny and a wholeness within ourselves that we've not had before if we can embrace this.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell you how to yet because I'm only getting the bits,
Right.
but we're coming to that. So the tree of light. I'm coming, and it's in language I don't understand, so I can't tell you yet entirely. But I believe what happened at the Tower of Babel, as the Bible says that man was taken away from man
Mm-hmm.
because he was trying to reach God, and that the languages were stripped away so that everything then became tribal and spoken in their own way. It's way more than that. Way more than that. The language, the same that the trees say, root and branch, remember the mother, the
Mm-hmm.
stones say,
Mm-hmm.
they all have that. And each one of them carry their own story, the story. They're storing all of those stories of every um, one in all of their tribes. And that's what it's all about is the story. And that we've lost that. And we need that because we're the only ones, they say, that speak all of the languages.
Mm.
We speak stone, we speak plant. And when we come into our wholeness, we will speak everything. And I believe that's what was taken away from us there for whatever reason. I'm not sure what, but I believe also that's when the thymus came into being, that it would take care of the young ones, but it's going to stop it in the tracks
Hmm.
and
Interesting.
make it so that we don't speak those languages.
Mm.
And as we can strengthen and heal our thymus, I believe we're going to move right into the tree of light that we
Awesome.
are. I know, and
Yeah.
it's like, whoa, you know? Um, and they were just, stones and plants were just screaming as you were
Like,
driving up
yeah.
today. So I want to throw some of these out there
Yeah.
before I forget.
Well, you have some beautiful crystals and stones.
Vivianite. And
Mm.
it's really interesting because these are things that just came this year too. So Vivianite, I don't know if we can see this with this light, but this is a beautiful, beautiful piece of Vivianite that is a
Mm.
blue green. So
Yeah, pretty.
Vivianite says, I will do that. Dioptase, who we couldn't find in my shop, also said, I will do that. So the Goldens, these stones here
Yeah.
have been my friend who was the miner Helmut from who had the mines of these in Madagascar, who many of the stones in my home came from. Uh, he died a few years ago, and so our access to all of the stones of his mines and stuff, of course, went away with him.
Mm-hmm.
But um, we were the first ones that he let come into his shipping crates that came over,
Mm.
that were allowed
Nice.
in, that weren't family. And I walked in all the crates and went down the energy and just went, that one. That's the one, and this is the
Yes.
one.
Yeah,
And they were,
crystals definitely will
yeah,
call to
and
you.
they were all goldens.
Oh.
And these are a different golden than I have. I mean, we have goldens from Brazil. We have goldens from Arkansas. We actually have things that are coming up as goldens in Madagascar. None of them are what these are. None of them are
That
what
is
these are.
just like,
And
it's
what
heavy and it's
it
just
is,
like,
and the
wow.
energy of it at your solar plexus,
Mm-hmm.
it energizes the healer. So anyone whose energy goes out to teaching others, to healing others, it fills your solar plexus,
Mm-hmm.
which is your will,
Mm-hmm.
which is also, um, okay, um, the thymus chakra just said, I do that, only different. So that's kind of the byword with them.
Yeah.
But that it is also the seat of our will that is used by voice moving things out. That by just using the solar plexus will without our true voices, we can only do so much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's not only saying it will fill up here,
Mm-hmm.
but it will fill up here. I just sold my last one of them and was so brokenhearted. This year I've been moving out and I've been being told to give away and to sell big groups of my favorite things. And it
That's
had to
hard.
be, it is hard. They had to be favorite because of what was coming in needed to run on a pure heart line.
Mm-hmm.
So it made me very nervous because these are things I've worked with.
Yes.
But they have only gone to people who work.
Yeah.
And I can see the lines being set up of grid between that.
And I can feel that.
Yeah.
Like it brings tears to my eyes because I know that energy and the thought of, because crystals become and stones, they're like a part of your
They
family.
Do. They are.
People that haven't worked with them maybe don't understand that.
Yeah.
But
no, there's a bonding that happens
mm-hmm.
that has to happen because otherwise you have no access to each other.
Mm-hmm.
They're just something here and there's something here. And if you don't work with them, you don't become one, then they just become something pretty that sits there.
Right.
So these
oh
Goldens, I just got back from a week in California. I went down to pick up a painting from my friend, and we stayed with my other friend. They were both people who worked with Helmut, and in her garden, she had a whole bunch of the Goldens, and she passed them to me. So now here's more came in. I just let go of my last big one, not wanting to, and here's more, even bigger, that came in. So
and that's a beautiful lesson in that
it is.
we get so caught up in possessions or holding on to things because we're afraid that it's the last one, and we're not going to get more. But
we have to walk on that pure trust. Right now, it has to be clear and pure trust. So the Goldens,
that takes so much courage.
The Goldens, and I don't have many, but I make elixirs from them too. I try to make things with elixirs, with creams, with powders, whatever way that works for someone. One stone can go infinity, and done like that. So we can use them in all kinds of ways. And I make medicine soups out of, and I put the drops into.
Isn't it that once you have used, say, a glass jar, or you've created something, you've put the essence of something in it, it has that vibrational frequency.
Yeah, that's vibration.
And as long as you can continue with that same vibrational frequency if you...
Yeah, that is plant spirit medicine. It is stone spirit medicine. It's vibrational. It's all totally vibrational. To where I like to do when I'm doing a workshop, I will spray people with one of the elixirs. The most important ones that ever came to me was I was given to help my family, who were all hospital workers, and would bring it home with them every night. And the clearing of people's fear and anger and fear, which all of those aspects make, and they would connect energy lines to them out of their need. And so I was given this to do, that put this together. This will work in clearing that, and it does tremendously. But I will spray the room, and everybody will go, whoa, because you feel it. Vibration, you feel. I didn't have to put a drop in everybody's mouth. A spray in the room. I could have asked it to come forward and called it in, and it would have come and done the same thing. But here's something that got sprayed on people, and I said, if you scientifically test this, this is water with a little bit of brandy to keep it from going off, bacteria. Vibrational is what everything is. It's what the earth is. It's what we are. And once you can get out of your head, there's a tree in your yard.
Yeah.
So,
Trust is a tough one
okay,
for us
it
humans. We
is
got
trust.
that?
It is the biggest. It
Yeah.
is absolutely surrender and trust that because they're the same thing.
Hmm.
That's the hardest thing ever.
Yeah.
But we can do it, and it's always amazing afterwards. Okay, Jeremy um, said clearly it would help. I doubt. Well, people are going to have tough time finding that one. It's one of the 10th rarest elements
And what
on
is
the
this?
planet, and it's not from the planet. It's called Jeremagevite.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
small blue stone. Oh, I suppose if you had millions, it would be a bigger blue stone, you know. But I have elixirs
Wow.
that I have made with Jeremagevite and acacia. Oh, of course. I made this several years ago, and we only used it once. But this year, at Body, Mind, Spirit, and at this last workshop I just did, the bag of sprays that I normally carry was not there, and in it was this bag of of called Blue Arrow of the Goddess,
Oh. Mm.
and I went, well, hell, let's just do it, and they have been huge. It moves energy. I call it Blue Arrow because of the Jeremagevite, which is this amazing blue that's not a planetary mineral. And also acacia, which is a plant that shoots energy when you have intention behind, just right there. I mean,
Mm.
takes it.
Wow.
You don't have to work to get anything through. It's right there. So,
So
of
these
course,
things you want to be very careful with in terms of with your intention.
yes. Oh, I know. This is it. In vibrational medicine, um, you are not going to be able to do harm.
Mm, okay.
The
Well,
stones won't
that's
work
good.
for you.
Okay.
You start messing with things you should not be messing with, and I have people that absolutely have seen that happen. Um, the stones stop, the
Hmm.
plants stop. You can't feel any longer. To do truly good, you can only come from the heart, and that means you too. If
Hmm.
if you do not, and I, that's a hard lesson for me, and I'm working on it, about self. And that's about, okay, this is what they said to me this morning just before you came in. Of course, uh, it just said to me, well, that's what we do. So I'm just going to say off these plants so that they can get named.
I feel like this is the Oscars.
Yeah, it is.
Would
Step
you like?
forward,
We're gonna
yes.
hold the microphone, speak into the microphone.
And the winner is Veracite. Australian Veracite. So I found I can only find this every um, maybe 10 years.
Mm, oh, wow.
It's a rare stone, and it comes in connection with where there's turquoise and gold mines.
Mm.
What is going on right now is our etheric bodies are running at a high rate of energy, really strong, really fast. There's energy flowing in all of the planet from all of these gateways that are open, from the star grids that are being brought down. All of this is running at a huge vibration, and it is the ancient vibration of who we are.
Mm.
So, what happens with that? It's like with solar flares that we feel, and your nerve endings just go wacky, and
Yeah.
everybody gets
Really on
really,
edge.
really on edge.
Yeah.
So, this is the same thing where our adrenals are stuck on fry, and our physical bodies are at one rate that they always used to be at, and our etherics at another one. So, because of that, well, there's all kinds of things because of that,
Hmm.
but I don't want to go into all of them right now. But what happens with that is the adrenals are cooked. This coats every nerve ending on the adrenals and softens everything and makes you move into heart chakra.
Hmm.
And the only way we're going to deal with this is moving into the heart chakra, which moves me right back around then to the higher heart chakra. I'm going to throw out names of plants, and then I'm going to go right back to this thread. Because the plants that help with that also are black-eyed Susan. And the reason black-eyed Susan is echinacea has always done the job for this before,
Mm.
because if the thymus is not working, so all of that, our immune system, that it worked for that. But we have overworked it's so much echinacea in our world that she's pulled her energy back in for healing.
Mm.
And what is stepping forward is a medicine from black-eyed Susans, which we don't even think about as medicines in our world right now
Right.
because they're just, something for your garden.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've noticed as she first came in a few years ago and started telling me this, that places all over Portland and Gresham where there were a lot of gang activity, where there was a lot of unrest and agitation and thick, syrupy energy,
Mm-hmm.
the meridians that year all got planted in black-eyed Susans. I'd never seen that happen before.
Yeah.
She pops up all over the place. People get the ideas that they think are their ideas, which are really the plant saying, this has got to be taken care of now.
Mm-hmm.
It's too thick for the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So the meridians were all in black-eyed Susans. And the amazing thing about black-eyed Susan is that she doesn't just work on the immune system. She works on what shadow work. What do I not know about myself?
Oh.
She's an amazing shadow healer.
Yeah.
So I have a cream that I made out of her that she calls stalking the self, which I really
Neat.
like. Yeah.
So let me ask you this, because we talked about vibration and frequency, and that you can call these
Yeah.
plant essences in.
Absolutely.
So we don't necessarily have to ingest them.
You do not. And this is, you need to start, I guess, in the past I would have said, you start with a year and a day with one plant so that you know what that feels like. You let a plant choose you,
Mm-hmm.
and you go there. For me, my first was chickweed. And this has been a lot of years to me to get to this point. But what's happening is everybody is awakening so much, and there's so much more energy in there. You don't need 45 years.
Mm-hmm.
You need intent and a strong heart, and also get your ego out of the way.
Right.
The most important of all.
Because that's 3-dimensional.
Yes.
That's not
absolutely
the unseen.
Yeah. So anybody can do this. We're all one. We're all one in this. The only thing that I can do differently is, for some reason, I'm just always that little bit ahead, so that I can show everybody what's coming.
Well, because you have cultivated that ability.
And I've lived back in the forest, and I've not had to do the hard work that all of you do out there in that world. Mm-hmm. My chakras can be so wide open, I can take in whatever. Mm-hmm. But I can't do that in the cities, and I don't know how in the hell you guys do it. Yeah. So that's where the hard work is. Yeah. But it's all it. Okay. So I'm gonna get them out of the way so I can keep talking. Yarrow, rose hips, thyme, licorice. Those were ones that all spoke this morning. That can be taken in tea and get that vibe going with them, and ask them on in and honor them. Start putting them make altars. This is okay. This is why you were yelling so much. This stone here and wanted to be out. Yeah. This it's gotten brighter as we were working here. It'll get bluer as we start speaking about it too. It's a piece of tourmaline that has blue tourmaline, has pink tourmaline, has all of this in it. Mm-hmm. And years ago, I got it at Tucson, and I had all of the stones out up above, because if I have them all, the new things come in, all bets are off, and everybody in the place starts screaming and hollering, and all my relations, Yeah. So this one kept yelling and yelling and yelling, and I kept saying, I can't do this now. I got to do this. I can't do this now. I can't go there. And so finally, it was getting so big. I said, okay. So I took it to bed with me, just to quiet it down, and I immediately went into seeing a mountain. And out of that mountain rose up, like she had been bent over, the spirit of tourmaline. And her face was streaked with the colors everywhere. And she said, look. And I looked, and there were thousands of offering plates from all down the ages, from hammered copper to wood to stone to whatever. There were just offering plates through the ages, and they were all empty. Oh. They were all empty. Mm-hmm. And
And what did you take from that?
what I totally got from her is, and what I get now from all of the stones, if we don't, there's purpose in giving offerings. We give offerings to each other. We give
Mm-hmm.
offerings to all of our loved ones. We give offerings to all kinds of things,
To the
but we
land.
don't, right. But people get caught up in not in doing it at the specific times of year, but it's not
Mm.
about that.
Right.
Right now, to hold those two places together, because so that things don't go kaboom, um, because all these energies colliding against each other like a weather system, we have to give the honoring place. They want it for everything that you do, every plant you are doing, even if you're not working with something. Um, take some time and go out there with, uh, pick up some pretty china at the Goodwill. Go to get a beautiful leaf to use, whatever, but leave whatever you have as an offering, and an open heart, because that's the only thing that's going to bring us together right now.
And so there's two things that I want to say.
Yeah,
One thing is that I love that you mentioned offering because, when I step into these interviews,
yeah,
and as I was prepping for this, I was gathering all my things, and there were two things that I was kind of told. I just heard, or I got the sense.
yeah.
And one was a crystal from my crystal grid for the show, and I showed that to you earlier. And the other thing was tobacco,
Yes.
and it was an offering for the land. And I was like, well, that's kind of a curious
Well,
thing that I.
and let me tell you why that is, because the plants are so familiar with it here.
Mm-hmm.
My grandson is Lakota, and I do Sundance, and it is sacred to them. The Quichua, the Shipibo people, um, they grow sacred tobacco, and I always use it in part of my healing rituals
Mm-hmm.
and give it to the land
Yeah.
and honor
Yeah.
that. And um, it's an amazing and beautiful plant that, as in so many of the amazing and beautiful plants in our world, we've misused. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so tobacco was an very important thing for you to bring.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was.
you got it.
It was, and that's what I find curious about, because I know that I am a conduit for this
Uh huh.
this information, this co-creation, and for me to get that, and then it all makes sense because of where we are, the tree. We get to go visit the tree and make the
Yes.
offering. Um, so I just so people maybe get a better understanding when you say make an offering, and
Yes.
you talk about these different plants.
Yeah.
Are you how? Can you be a
I
little bit
am
more
saying, okay,
specific?
I am saying by when I give an offering, and it can be as elaborate as a beautiful plate which I do, and I make up for them, for the wild folk, um,
Like the
and the
fairies and the.
plants. Yes, absolutely. I call them the wild folk, and I don't know. It is a race of fairy. It's not the sparkly, pretty little things we think of as
Right.
that.
Is it the ones
Um,
that look more like leafy?
no, it is
No?
not. The
Okay.
ones um, who are my teachers, this came quite a few years ago, and I had been praying and asking for help and asking to learn, and um, they stepped up through dream world that wasn't a dream world. This is how I'm a dreamer, and I work on that. The line of dream energy moves dimensions. You move through
Mm.
dimensions with
Mm-hmm.
that higher realm of dream. And it was a group of them, and they said, it's interesting at the time that they all had Amazon parrots with them, and they were in the back of my old land. And it wasn't until years later that they then sent me to the Amazon.
Mm.
But they proceeded. They said, we will teach you, but you must be willing to exchange your cage.
Hmm.
And I didn't understand it at the time, and I don't know that I understand it now. But each time gets a little closer to, and that how everything cages us in our life,
Yeah.
how our relationships cage us, how our thoughts and our egos and all of those things in our world that cage us
Mm-hmm.
in ways that we don't know. And
Right.
when we're caged, we cannot be a pure conduit.
Yeah.
So they proceeded to rip me to shreds.
As
Totally
they will.
rip me to shreds about everything human and that I was and that I wasn't, and totally shredded me. But they have guided me tremendously,
Mm-hmm.
and they've shown up at the most important times. Um, so, uh, the wild folk, for lack of a word, and I do. I can do as much as an elaborate plates. I have found over the years that they love no fruit. No fruit
Oh.
from this realm. They will throw it all over the place. Obviously, there is truth in the fairy tales of the golden apples and of the sun and all of the things of the next realm. So, but they want things that they obviously don't have there for some reason. They want sweets.
Yes, I was gonna
And they
say.
want fat. They want butter. They want cheese. They want breads. Um, and they always love their
The Cure.
yes, yes, they do.
Oh,
And
I love them.
I know. I'll show you when we go down.
Wine, cheese, and chocolate are
There's an
like my favorite
I
things.
know, and that's the offering plate. And then I bring in whatever plants that I'm wanting to do offer with or willing to be to give honoring for the altars. Um, they do that too.
Mm.
Yeah. So what I'm wanting to the last bit, and then I will
Yeah.
be through with where we've gotten to this so far. And this, I mean, I'm sorry to keep jumping back into serious stuff, but
No, I love.
what they are saying
No, okay.
here is that because of this thymus being dysfunctional, because it being not running at the vibration it needs to,
Mm-hmm.
you know that that is happening in you when there are problems of self-esteem. No matter how hard you work at them,
Mm-hmm.
there are layers underneath there from childhood.
Sure.
There are problems with disorganization in everything in your life. There are problems with um, having dietary issues that won't seem to go away. All of those things are what comes from here, which
Mm-hmm.
is that higher heart chakra.
And I imagine self-worth.
Self worth. Thank you. That is absolutely the biggest.
Yeah.
That is the biggest. That self worth really needs to be strong.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and
For our own strength.
for especially conscious entrepreneurs too, is
Yeah.
that spiritual entrepreneurs really need to own their self-worth and value, because I see a lot of people struggling with that piece.
Oh,
And
how I tell you,
yeah, me too.
I'm not saying this because I've mastered it. That's for darn sure. It's hard.
Yeah.
And it's very hard. And it's hard because we've been trained to be in service
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and to be in service for everything. And um, it's very hard to walk that balance. You know,
Yes,
it's very
it
hard
is.
to walk that balance.
And that whole receiving piece.
Yeah.
Because we're comfortable giving
Yes.
and putting it out and being of service, but we have to serve ourselves first.
Yeah.
To get that, to be able to give that energy and hold that space.
I hear you. It is, and that's okay. So that's what it's given to us right now. And I want to, so I want to say again with the plants.
Yes.
Black-eyed Susan.
Okay, and
Okay.
as you go
Now,
through these,
black-eyed Susan, this is something too. I would say all of these tea.
tea.
You
Okay.
could do tea. You could do them in the bath. Black-eyed Susan, you could do in the bath. I make an elixir of her that is double jarred, which means it's totally vibration.
So you're not putting the
I'm not putting
in.
her into water.
Oh, okay.
And that's because the petals can be extremely healing, roots can be extremely healing, the seeds can be poisonous.
Mm.
So she's a plant.
Don't try this at home.
So don't try this at home. This is a plant that contains everything. It contains the poison, it contains what will heal the poison, and that's why she also works so amazingly well as a shadow healer.
I love her.
Yeah, I do too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this has been an incredible conversation. And I'm just like totally flying high because of all the energy and all
And
of the stuff we're
this has
talking
been a bit
about.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you. Is there anything that you or the spirits are feeling called to share to wrap us up? Like, what's the most important message? Or
It's surrender to this. And I know that's the hardest thing. But right now, we have to. We have to do the best of whatever we can to stay in our hearts. And to move into that upper heart, we got to clear the heart first, too,
hmm
and ask for what we need,
hmm
not just from people, but from the earth, from the world.
yeah,
Yeah, care for ourselves.
yeah. Great messages.
This has been lovely.
Yeah.
And I
Oh,
just thank you so much.
thank you. I'm so glad that, after all those years, this is a great way that we're going to help spread this message and help people
Absolutely.
become aware of your
And
your gifts and what you bring
and their own gifts and what
yeah.
they bring as well as
Yep.
I'm saying thank you for that. But it's not just me stepping out into the world, it's every one of us. And each time we
hmm
do, each, oh man, I remember what started, you had asked me what started this all for me, and very quickly, um, it was a prayer for release from fear. My life had been filled with so much fear, um, agoraphobia, I mean, intense fear. And I went to sleep one night and said the prayers for it and asked for it. And someone stepped up. All I could see in the dream was the bottom of a gown and bare feet. And they said, with each step that you take towards God, God steps one step closer towards you.
mm
And I went to Powell's not long after. An old book of Theosophy jumped off the shelf. I opened it up, and that's exactly what it said.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. It was something that had been written at the turn of the century in the Theosophy movement. So, each step we take towards the earth, she steps right back to us 100-fold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Awakened Goddess Show. I hope you enjoyed today's guest and got something you can start using in your life right away. For more spiritual insights and to listen to more episodes, subscribe to The Awakened Goddess Show at theawakenedgoddess.com and discover wisdom that'll change your life.